Hi, this is the bad boy, Joey Janela, and you're listening to the Going in Raw podcast. Joey Janela always goes in.
This is the American Nightmare, Cody Rhodes, and you are listening to Going in Raw.
Hey everyone, Kenny Omega here. In case you didn't know, we have an awesome kick-butt show called Steve and Larson's Going in Raw, and they're going to be supporting AEW every week amongst many other things. Goodbye and smooch. Good night. Bye-bye.
Hey, friendo, Steve here.
And Larson.
And welcome back to Going in Raw, the only pro wrestling podcast you need to be listening to right here at youtube.com/Steve and Larson. Available wherever podcasts can be found, and of course, taped live on the twitch.tv/Steve and Larson. We're going to get to our review of the very first AEW Dynamite on TBS. The unfortunate injury that happened to Rey Fenix there at the end of the show. The absolutely stellar match of the year candidate match that opened the show and everything in between. But first, unfortunately, today, while we were filming our NXT 2.0 review, word started coming through via Sean Ross Sapp over there at Fightful that there were some behind-the-scenes releases over there at NXT under the WWE umbrella. And it turned into quite a bit more than that, with a lot of names that are recognizable to pretty much anybody paying attention to wrestling.
That's right.
that were released. Larson, do we have a rundown of that?
Yeah, we do. So earlier today, as you mentioned while we're doing our NXT recap, we heard that Road Dogg had been released. And then once we were done, word started coming out of a lot more releases. Names include Timothy Thatcher, Danny Burch, Hideki Suzuki, Scott Armstrong, Kathy Carino, George Carroll, and William Regal. Sean Ross Sapp reported all those names, and then PW Insider reported that Dave Kapoor, Ace Steel, and Ryan Katz had all also been released, unfortunately.
Of course, those last names, I believe they were writers primarily for NXT.
Yeah.
I mean, as it had been said on Twitter, it's kind of obvious to see what's going on. In fact, WWE released their own statement where they referred to the sort of the changeover of, I think I have the statement right here. It says, with the continued evolution of NXT 2.0, we've decided to part ways with some of the staff based in our Performance Center. We thank them for their many contributions throughout the years and wish them the best. If the idea of the Performance Center is you're going to bring in basically nothing but green talent. I know they in December they had a tryout. There's been some indie talent. Idris Enofe's made TV. He has spent some time in the independent ranks. I'm not sure exactly how much. But if the idea is the main driver of your recruitment efforts is going to be going into like doing the next in line program, a college program thing, bring in recruits that are completely uneducated in the world of professional wrestling.
Yeah.
Why would you get rid of names like Timothy Thatcher,
Danny Burch,
William Regal, Danny Burch?
I know.
That's nuts to me. It really is.
It really is. If the idea of NXT 2.0 is development, those are people you want there. You got both Thatcher and Burch and Regal.
Yeah.
Talented ring technicians that can impart upon these new recruits the knowledge, the know-how, not only to like actually do pro wrestling moves, but to tell a story using said moves. You'd think those would be the type of people you want if you want to develop future WWE superstars. Yeah, I don't get it.
I mean, it honestly does. Now, all these names it's been pointed out are names that were close to Triple H, and I mean, I guess the idea is that was part of his program, and there has been a really nasty indictment on his program that Vince considers it evidently a failure.
Which is bizarre because you look at a lot of the champions the last 5 years, a lot of them have come through NXT. But I guess my idea about why they changed over NXT was Vince wasn't happy with the talent, not because he didn't necessarily like said talent. He didn't think people in large enough numbers are tuning in to see that talent. So he wants to go back to how he did things for the longest time. He wants athletes. You know, guys with size. That's what he wants. You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And wants to get away from indie talent who have developed their own brands on their own for a number of years. That seems to be the change. And I would think it's not because Vince thinks NXT is going to do better in the ratings now. It's because that's the talent he wants.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Did you happen to catch what the ratings were for NXT today? Because I didn't catch them.
I didn't notice them.
I didn't notice them. Usually I do. Usually I just sort of pop my Twitter feed. Maybe there's a delay. I don't know. But yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, it's crazy to me that these very talented people would be shown the door.
It looks like there's a
really
delay. Sorry to be interrupted. It looks like
okay, yeah. And I mean that's all there is to it. It's an absolute shame. We were talking about this, I think, off camera and on camera earlier in the pre-show and while we were watching Dynamite. Even if Tony Khan is able to sign,
sorry,
top
people are saying 685. This wasn't anything on Showbuzz Daily yet. That's why I said it was delayed. But apparently, you're 685.
Okay, well that's kind of standard for NXT these days. Which, I mean, it's still probably pretty good. You know, I mean, all I have to base that off of is, you know, the idea that TNT would have been happy with 500,000 for Dynamite. So I assume USA would be cool with 685.
So from Brandon Thurston today, 685,000, a demo of 0.16. It's the best numbers they've had since Halloween Havoc.
Yeah. But Fear and Loathing does have a good point here. He says, this feels so personal and spiteful to fire literally anybody linked to Triple H. We're outsiders. And it feels silly to think that a business would be run that way, but this is the WWE. This isn't a normal business. It does feel that way. It really does. And it seems silly to even broach that, but my goodness, you know, it does feel like, what is he gonna come back to if he does come back, if he's ever healthy enough to come back? The whole thing is just it's bizarre, and it's very sad, and it's very disheartening, you know.
It is.
So, so yeah, I mean, I don't know. I was a big fan of Timothy Thatcher in the short time that I saw him in the product. I know he used to be part of what used to be Imperium Ringkampf back in the day with Walter and Bartel.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, you know, we were talking about that, and even if Tony Khan signs the top 5 names in that free agent list, guess what? You still have enough people and then some for an entirely new, really high profile promotion. Now, I don't think for a second anybody has the money. I hope maybe Impact has the money to sign some of these names. And honestly, like Impact could use a bit of a step up in production value, to be honest with you. Some of their backstage stuff just, I don't know, it seems a bit amateurish. But I don't know. I don't know where all these people are going to go.
Well, I mean, there's a potential destination. We have Ring of Honor trying to repackage themselves.
Yeah.
You know, and depending on what kind of business model they adopt, you know, I'm guessing they'll still have some of that Sinclair money to spend. And if they want to bring in people, you know, on an appearance basis for short runs to kind of get the profile up, that could benefit them potentially.
You know, yeah, absolutely. I think that there's,
and I think the Ring of Honor name still carries some value. You know,
I think it does. They talk about production changes. I am Ash Ketchum here has a question that it's silly, but it's not. He says, "Do you think Triple H and Vince have heat over this?" And well, there was a report not that long ago that claimed there's no way it seemed kind of obvious that there's no way Triple H would ever leave WWE. Because it would alter family dynamics. On the flip side of that, doesn't this kind of shit alter family dynamics?
Yeah.
You would just think. It'd be fascinating to know. It would be, I mean, because to know how close to succession it actually is.
I mean, I guess what would damage family dynamics most, him, Triple H staying with the company and this kind of stuff happening, or him going off to pursue something else? You know?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know the family dynamics, so it's
yeah, right. Yeah, we're not there. We're not in the room.
Exactly.
But it's like, it's hard to believe any of this wouldn't alter. It's so bizarre. If Triple H left for anything but professional wrestling, I think it'd be whatever. I think it'd be like, hey, you know what? It's not working to me. It's not working for me here. I want to go pursue a different endeavor. If he went away to start his own wrestling promotion, I mean, clearly that would change the dynamic. But I don't know. As a person with any sort of ego, at this point, wouldn't you just be like, oh my God, unless there is so much more depth to what he does there that this is literally just, oh, okay, no, that's fine. I understand. Business as usual, which is entirely possible, I guess.
But you see the bonds, the relationships he forges with the talent in NXT, how much he dedicated to that promotion, to build it up, to build it to be a very specific thing. And in certain parts of the wrestling sphere, it was a wildly popular thing. We love NXT at its peak. We absolutely loved it. Some of the best wrestling in the entire world happened in NXT. You know?
It's not silly to think that Triple H would see this as his art, right? As a personal thing, as this is what I am putting into this. And it's more than just business.
Yeah.
It's my soul I'm putting into this shit. And you and I both know, we both dabbled in the arts, you know. To put something out there is a very vulnerable thing.
Yes.
Even for a big jack dude like Triple H.
Yes, it is.
And then to see it dismantled bit by bit by bit, first with botched call-ups, now being picked dry down to the bone. That's gotta kill somebody's soul, you would think.
Yeah, it's gotta hurt. That's gotta hurt.
It has to. Like, he's not as much as he thinks he might be a Terminator hunter / Terminator.
He's a human.
The
being.
man is not a robot.
He's a human being. And as much as he might be able to steel himself for dealing with Vince for all these years, prepare himself for whatever crap Vince throws his way, something like this still has to hurt. You know, when a call-up gets botched, you know, I'm sure he puts on as good a face as he could and try to be as encouraging as he can. That's got to hurt. You know, when you develop somebody's character so well in NXT and they get called up, you think, all right, this person has what it takes to go far on the main roster, and they completely dismantle everything you did to make that person a success. And it's all up to the whims of a 75-year-old man. Yeah. That's got to hurt. That's got to hurt.
R. Lopez Ortiz here in chat. Artist on some of the DC Batman books. Terrific. My God. Like, I wish I had an ounce of that talent. Says here in chat, I can guarantee you as a creative industry working person, Triple H is dead inside right now. How could you not be? How could you not be? And I wonder, you know, we talked about this earlier today, how on the Freddie Prinze Jr.'s podcast, he talked about talking to a Fox executive friend of his who claims, and we have no reason to believe that any of this would be a lie, that WWE was interested in Fox purchasing them, but their purchase price was too high. And I wonder if that was right before Nick Khan came on, which was August of 20, or in the year preceding that, which was August of 2020. What was happening in late 2019? That's when NXT was arguably at its peak, right? Maybe around that time, Triple H was like, I'm setting this up because it looks like we're going to be selling the company. You know, we're shopping it around. We're trying to get offers for it. And then that falls apart. And so he's like, oh, okay. Because who knows what his future would have been at that point. I don't know. And then it just sort of stalls out. Then pandemic happens, and that's weird. That throws everything off. Who knows what, you know, how the Wednesday Night Wars would have panned out without pandemic. I don't know. You know, maybe it would have still gone the exact same way. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
It might have hastened NXT's demise. I don't know. But it's got to be awful for him.
Yeah.
I mean, especially in whatever compromised position he might be in now because of his health. I mean, sitting there and just watching piece after piece be ripped away. And you're also dealing with your broken heart. That's awful. Ugh. That's awful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyways. All right, let's take a quick break here to get a word from our sponsor, ExpressVPN. So, Larson.
Yes, Steve?
Let me ask you a personal question.
All right.
You always close the door when you use the bathroom, right?
Well, yeah, of course. Why are you asking me that kind of question? Of course I close the door. I close the door.
Of course you close the door.
I close the door.
Of course you do. Yeah, you wouldn't want somebody passing by looking at you while you're doing your business, right?
No.
So why would you let people look at what you're doing online? Using the internet without using ExpressVPN is like using the bathroom without closing the door.
Yeah, see, your internet service provider knows every single website you visit. If that wasn't bad enough, they can then sell that information to ad companies, and tech giants will then use your data to target you. But ExpressVPN puts a stop to all that by creating a secure encrypted wormhole that connects your device to the internet so your activity can't be seen by anyone.
That's right. I use ExpressVPN on all sorts of devices. My laptop, my phone, basically works on everything. And my favorite thing about ExpressVPN is that it's easy to use. You just fire up the app, click a button, and you're protected. It's as easy as closing the bathroom door.
So if you're like us and believe your online activity is your business, secure yourself by visiting expressvpn.com/GIR today. Use our exclusive link, expressvpn.com/GIR, and you can get an extra 3 months free.
That's expressvpn.com/GIR.
So I guess we could talk about Dynamite. Before we get into it, Floppy here has something from Brian Alvarez that says Fenix has a broken arm, head to the hospital as well. And then apparently Jake Atlas may have been hurt tonight too.
There's no more clarification on what happened with Jake Atlas?
Knee.
Oh, oof. Ouch. That's going to hurt.
So hopefully nothing too serious for Jake.
No kidding.
He just joined AEW.
Yeah.
Don't want to see him get hurt, especially right away.
Yeah.
And then that Fenix injury was awful. Awful.
Yeah.
You know, wishing him a speedy recovery.
Yeah, so, I mean, for people who might not have seen it and are just getting the news now, what happened was that towards the finish of the match that showed new tag team champions crowned in Jurassic Express, there was a spot where Luchasaurus does a choke slam off the apron through a table that had been set up onto Fenix. And the first part of it, Fenix sort of came out of nowhere and landed on the apron into position for the choke slam. And I'm not a pro wrestler, obviously. It looked like maybe there was a positioning issue. I don't know. Maybe not. But somehow, some way, Fenix's arm sort of got trapped behind him. And so he landed on it, and it bent completely the wrong way. They replayed it several times, and I believe that TV, the truck, didn't understand because even the first time I saw it, I didn't notice it, and they replayed it a couple times. I intentionally looked away because as soon as the accident happened, his arm just looked bent weird, and it was very limp, and he was screaming, and he was pointing at it. And you can most of the time tell the difference between pro wrestling selling and, oh, my God, this actually hurts for real.
Yeah.
When they went back for the final replay, you see it. And it was horrifying.
Yeah,
it really was.
It was really bad. It was really bad. And like I said earlier, wishing Fenix a speedy recovery. Yeah, that looked bad, and we'll see if there's some official word from AEW as far as the diagnosis. But yeah, just an awful injury, awful.
Yeah, and it was a terrible way. It was extra, I guess, bizarre because they did a bit where. Now, as the new tag champions, they did this sort of visual to illustrate that they have a target on their back because everybody in the tag division, anybody with any sort of hopes of being a tag champion.
Yeah. Even if he said it 2 years ago, like Chris Jericho.
Well, they showed two different Chris Jerichos in the crowd. They cut to him twice, and like you said in the pre-show, it looked like it was fan cam.
Yeah.
During a basketball game.
What they should have done is found some stock footage or some old footage of Jericho before he dyed his hair. For one shot, then Jericho now after he's dyed his hair for the other shot. So you think, there's two Chris Jerichos now.
There's two Chris. Raw Gate technology strikes again.
Yeah.
Dynamite Gate technology strikes again with Chris Jericho and his dalliance with Just for Men. Which maybe he was applying the Just for Men when the lights came out for Aleister Black.
Oh, maybe that's
just keep on. Slap this shit on here.
Yeah, maybe that's the explanation for it.
Oh man, and two guys who really shouldn't be talking about,
especially not me,
hairlines and whatnot.
I know,
and graying hair.
I know.
But I guess that's maybe why it's fun to talk shit. Apart
from that awful incident, Dynamite by and large was a really fun show.
Oh, it was a blast.
The opening bout was fantastic. I could watch Danielson and Page wrestle basically all day.
True. Yeah, I agree.
And as great as the match was, I was kind of hoping they'd go a little bit longer.
I was totally happy with as long. I thought that this was the perfect length. It was I think it was around 30 minutes.
Yeah,
because they opened the show with it, and I think it ended like everything was said and done at around 34.
Yeah, 35. After the hour, I was like, as soon as the match started, and I thought about it a bit more with the judges. So it was Paul White, Jerry Lynn, and Mark Henry were the three judges.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I thought, okay, maybe they can do the story of it'll go basically a distance, at least pretty long. Page will get destroyed, but he'll get the win. He'll get the clean win.
Mm-hmm.
And so Brian, yeah, he lost, but if it had gone to the judges' scorecards, they probably would have given him the match. There was like a protected finish in that respect. That's what I was kind of expecting.
Danielson was playing. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
That's fine.
He was playing to the judges. He was playing.
It was great.
He was playing. He was wrestling for this to go to a decision.
Yeah, he was. Yeah. He looked at Jerry Lynn. We did the package pile driver during a picture-in-picture. He went over ringside right by the judges and basically stretched Adam Page in their face.
Yeah.
He was wrestling this for the judges. He wanted this to go to a decision.
Yeah.
But I think part of it too, at least for me, is I enjoy watching these two wrestle so much.
Oh, it's great. Yeah.
That when it was just 35 minutes, I'm like,
yeah,
I could have had another 5 or 7 minutes of this.
Yeah, I thought it was magnificent. I actually liked it better than their draw.
Same.
And the judges did add tension to it and a little bit of comedic, unintentional comedy, because they just sit there and writing whatever they're writing down. You look down, and you see Jerry Lynn's thing, and it's just some sort of AEW. It's like AEW scorecard. He hasn't actually written anything.
It was on letterhead too.
Yeah, it was on letterhead, which is pretty silly. But it was. Somebody made this point on Twitter, and I apologize. I didn't catch who it was. I think it was in my mentions. They said something like, this really came off like as much of a fight as a pro wrestling match can be. And I don't always agree with. I don't agree that there is only room in pro wrestling for matches that feel real. But that is how I prefer it. I'm totally fine with comedy stuff. I'm actually itchy to watch some DDT Pro these days with all the Chris Brooks and the blow up doll stuff. That looks hilarious, and the stuff Suzuki just did there. I love the goofy stuff. That being said, when you see dudes just bleeding all over each other and really giving it to each other, that's my favorite kind of wrestling. It really is, and I love that kind of stuff. And that's how I felt about the match.
I think any story, any match that's telling a story that's gets you emotionally invested and is really physical. Yeah. And so you buy into it. You suspend your disbelief. You buy into the knowing full well this is completely choreographed. You buy into it that okay, I'm into the story. I'm believing these guys are really beating the hell out of each other. Yeah. And that is the best pro wrestling. I agree. 1,000%.
Yeah, I love that. I absolutely love that stuff. So that was great. And then, of course, we've got our very first TBS champion, Jade Cargill, in with a second rope Jaded.
Yeah.
Glam slam.
Yeah.
Put away Ruby Soho. And what I thought was a pretty damn good match. Every time I see Jade Cargill in the ring, she gets better. And I think that she's got star power. Immense star power.
That storm gear she was wearing tonight was amazing.
Oh, how great was that?
Amazing. Did you see the pictures? I guess I assume it was a commercial break after the match where she brought her daughter out and celebrated her win with her.
Oh my gosh. That alone. I'm like, oh man, little baby. Oh, it's great. I love that stuff. So congratulations to Jade Cargill.
Yes.
I imagine her work ethic. Just looking at her, I can tell her work ethic is probably off the charts, and I hope to see her develop more and more over the coming years.
Yep.
I think she's a great choice for a TB. I mean, she named the championship after herself.
Yep.
She did.
Yep.
That B show.
She's going to have that belt for a while.
I imagine you're probably correct about that. Let's dive into it. Opened up, like we said, with Hangman versus Danielson. Like you said, also Mark Henry, Jerry Lynn, and the Big Show. Of course, 2 out of those 3 men famously got cashed in on by Bryan Danielson, Daniel Bryan, back in the day. But they didn't have an opportunity to show any bias because of that.
No.
And very quickly, Hangman was on the offensive, had a sense of urgency. He didn't want this to go to the judges.
No. He
Danielson,
wanted to,
totally fine with it.
Killing time.
Stalling.
What do you accuse Paige of doing?
Yeah.
Stalling. Just
the best. That's the best kind of heel is a hypocrite.
Exactly.
That's the best kind of heel.
Yeah. Exactly. Again, another match you can go through move by move, beat by beat, but you just have to watch it to appreciate it. Fairly early on, Paige is busted open after being sent into the ring steps with a drop toe hold. He's bleeding a bunch. Brian during commercial break is just over him, like punching him right in the head. He's stretching him in front of the judges.
He's
fantastic.
aiming for that cut.
He is.
He was punching right on that cut, and Hangman was bleeding.
And I did appreciate the commentary. I think Shivani said early on he was really targeting Paige's arm.
Yes, he was.
Until he got busted open, and then it seemed like his target changed. Now, whether I'd like to watch this back again to see if this was the case in terms of the story they were telling, where had Danielson continued working the arm rather than getting distracted by the head, could he have won the match?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So eventually, though, Paige blocks a ring post shot from Danielson, yanks Danielson to the ring post repeatedly. Now Bryan Danielson's bleeding, and he's bleeding a ton. That
happened quick. As soon as he got cut, you look away, you look back, and he had a crimson mask. That was a lot.
It looked like he cut himself, got back in the ring, and then he rolled back out. I don't know if you noticed, because the first time he rolled in, there was a little bit there, and then he came back out. They went to commercial, and during picture-in-picture, it was blood everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
Blood everywhere.
Yeah, he really did it.
And there's a lot of headbutts in this match. A lot of headbutts.
Yeah, there was a whole bit after they were both open that they started headbutting each other, started throwing strikes.
They were doing leaping headbutts at each other.
Yeah, they were. Yeah. And then Bryan, after that sequence, Bryan hits a gotch pile driver, gets 2 on that. At that point, he smiles at the judges because he thinks he has a 1, basically. Gives Hangman some Danielson stomps. He loads up a running knee. Hangman pops it up into a power bomb, but Bryan's able to sort of counter the pin attempt into a sleeper, transitions to a knee lock. Hangman kicks him off, hits a backdrop driver onto Danielson, goes to the apron, and then he hits his buckshot lariat for 3. Won't let the ref hold his arm up because it's so busted up.
Great match. Fantastic stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Next, we got an Acclaim promo. They were talking about how they stood, even though they lost the match last week. They stood tall at the end. They say they're not done with Darby Allin. He says, next week we're going to show Sting how this generation handles things with a viral video. That's pretty funny.
I like Caster's read on that. He says, we show you how our generation's going to handle it. We're going to make a viral video.
Yeah.
It's like the nerdiest thing you could possibly
It was pretty damn funny. It was pretty
damn funny. Somebody replayed this on Twitter. I was laughing my ass off when they had that big multi-man match a couple weeks ago. And he came out with everybody, and he was doing his rap. And then there was a big brawl broke out. I think it was probably against Kingston and his guys or something like that. And Caster, he's in the mid-rap, and he says, "Oh, Jesus." And he puts the mic down because he has to throw. It was pretty funny. I thought it was pretty funny. And he was not, contrary to what he said on Twitter, he was not one of the judges.
He was not one of the judges.
Yeah.
After that, we were supposed to have MJF versus Captain Sean Dean. So MJF makes his way down the ring. Right after the opening bell happens, CM Punk runs down, slides into the ring, MJF runs off. And so Punk turns around, hits Dean with the GTS, so Dean wins via DQ. Therefore, MJF starts 2022 0-1.
Yeah. Somebody here in chat, I think said, I don't know if this actually happened, but said Mark Sterling might try to get that that stricken from the record, given the circumstances. But no, that was pretty shocking. It was a clever way of a DQ, which they almost never do in AEW. Is DQ. So Punk gets on the mic. He says it's going to be really hard to fight for a title when you keep losing. MJF calls Punk fake. He says you induce boredom. The crowd starts chanting, "Shut the fuck up." MJF says, the crowd was really sort of playing both sides here. MJF says, you wanted to focus on being a world champion. You might have convinced them you're a big deal. The truth is, without me, you're nothing. I make you relevant. You're a fake bill of goods. I'm the real deal. It's interesting you have a problem with the Piper comparison. He says, do you think you're Roddy Piper? Because the last time I checked, Piper was talented enough to main event a WrestleMania. Which popped the crowd, by the way, and the crowd started chanting PG Punk, and the great thing is MJF noticed that and then turned on the crowd. He didn't want that. He was doing his job there. I liked it.
Yeah.
He says, if I'm not shown the proper respect around here, maybe I'll main event a WrestleMania 2. Or he says, maybe I'll actually get to main event a WrestleMania, because Punk never did. Punk starts laughing about that. He says, all I want to do is kick your ass, so stop talking and come down here. You ran for me, and if you think the grass is greener over there, go ahead and main event night 4 of a buy one, get one free extravaganza. Then you'll get released faster than you can last in the sack, which obliterated the crowd. The crowd went nuts for that line.
He said you'll end up right back here.
Yeah, you'll end up right back here, and I'll still be waiting for you, still waiting to kick your ass.
Yeah.
And so MJF hypes up the crowd, says, do you want to see this happen right now? Do you want to see this? Do you want to see this? He says, next week, it's going to be Punk versus Wardlow. Punk rolls his eyes.
Yeah, this is the difference between myself and Piper and a worm like you, MJF, is that Piper and I would fight anyone. So bring on Wardlow, MJF. We'll run out of people to hide behind soon enough, and eventually I'm going to put you to sleep.
This is a good question here, mid-stream from Joe Juarez. What are the odds MJF attacks Wardlow next week to give Punk a DQ? That's a better idea than having Sterling take it off.
That's highly likely. Highly likely.
Or would he do that himself, or would he order Spears to do it with the chair?
Oh, maybe.
Because Spears is always out there.
It could be Spears. That's highly likely. And that's actually a really good idea.
Yeah.
Then we had a Cody Sammy Guevara video package hyping up their match at Battle of the Belts this weekend.
Oh, man. Easy win for Cody. Oh, we're already looking past it here on Cody Island.
Really?
Already looking past Sammy.
Well, I don't know if you should do that. I mean, he'll win, but I don't know if you should look past anybody. Then we had Chris Jericho promo. He talks about the last time he was on TBS was September 7th, I believe, 1999 on Thunder in a losing effort against Booker T. Talks about how it's great to be back on TBS, back in Newark. And to be back after those 2.0 guys hit with the chair. Says it took him a while to shake the cobwebs out of his head, but he came back last week not to help Eddie Kingston, but to get revenge on those 2.0 dipshits, and that brings 2.0 out. They welcome him back. Matt Lee says, hey, the last time we ran into each other, we gave you a little bit of a taste of a steel chair.
Taste.
Jericho says, I don't like the taste of it. Can't stop staring at your square head. And then he says Jeff Parker has a pinhead. He tries to get that chant going. Pinhead, square head. And then eventually, though, he goes and gets Floyd. Daniel Garcia tries to attack him from behind. Jericho hits him with Floyd. 2.0 start beating down Jericho, and then Eddie Kingston and Santana Ortiz run out to make the save.
Kingston and I literally twinning tonight.
Oh, yeah?
Black hoodie, gray sweatpants. I don't have any of those boots he wears.
Oh, no Timberlands?
The Timberlands. Yeah. After that, we had an Undisputed Era promo. Cole says, last week was awesome. We whooped best friends' asses. Boys are back together. He says, and by the way, Kyle O'Reilly, I know you kicking me was an accident, but it wasn't an accident. The Bucks came down to make sure we won. Guys, we're a super group. Everything's great. It's so exciting. And it's also exciting that Jake Atlas is here. How about in about 2 weeks on Rampage is me versus Atlas, and I'll give Jake a one-way ticket back to Orlando.
Yeah.
That's exciting. Yeah.
Then we got Wardlow versus Antonio Zambrano. So before the bell rings, Zambrano rolls out of the ring while the ref is doing like the pre-match check on Wardlow. Sean Spears hits Zambrano with the DVD C4, as he calls it, puts him back in the ring. He's telling Wardlow, cover him. And Wardlow at first is mad. And then he smiles. And then he proceeds to powerbomb Zambrano 5 times.
5 times.
Before getting the win.
5 times, as safely as he can. By the way, you pointed that out.
It's really safe, but it looks like every single one of them looked like they hurt.
His body language, everything about like the like he put so much intensity into the move, but then you could just tell when he brings it down, it's like, oh, I mean, it probably doesn't feel good, but he ain't killing the guy. Worse. Yeah, absolutely. It's not like 5 Sid power bombs. After that, why did you wince on that one?
There's like
Sid's power bombs seemed horrible.
There's 2 distinct eras of Sid power bombs. If I remember it early on, yes. But then by the time I feel like Psycho Sid came around, he was basically I remember one specifically with Shawn Michaels. He picked him up and then held his lower back on the way down to put him down like as gently as possible.
Hey man, when you were dealing with Shawn Michaels back then, you got to be careful with that guy. He'll go running a Vin Man.
Yeah. So.
Who had the nastiest power bomb then?
Vader.
That's a good point.
It's Vader.
That's a good point. Yeah.
After that, we had a Chris Statlander, Layla Hirsch recap. They got this. They're doing the story how they were friends, tag team partners. Now they don't get along. I appreciate they're building up a story on Dark and Elevation and actually showcasing that on Dynamite. It's probably something they should do much more often. Like, really, they should have had the blow-off match to Joey Janela and Sonny Kiss on Dynamite.
You know what? I will disagree with that. I actually I think that they should give shine to what's going on there on TV to drive people over there. But if I'm a dude who's like, hey, you know what? I just like watching Dark and Elevation or just Dark. I like that they're building stories there then paying them off there. I'm okay with the payoff being there. I'm all right with that because here's the thing also. Conversely, if I'm just watching TV and I don't watch Dark and Elevation, which 9 times out of 10 is me, like I keep up if there's stories going on there, but the average person might not. They're not going to get the story unless you do like a recap. They're just going to get a rando match.
I understand that.
They're not going to get the build for. So why not just pay it off there?
We saw Sonny and Joey on Dynamite, I believe. I remember watching footage of them breaking up. And I don't really watch Dark or Elevation, so I must have seen it somewhere else. Maybe it was on Twitter. I don't know. But I just feel like we were introduced to the story. Granted, at the very beginning, remember they had those great little vignettes of them that were shot really well?
That was like 2 years. No, I do. I loved them.
They were great.
It was like 2 years ago, though. That was a long time ago. I guess my thing is like...
I understand your point. I do understand your point. But I feel like there's some stories that I feel like in some feuds that you know... Yeah, they've developed and built on Dark or Elevation. You can make the case, obviously, that they should culminate there. But at the same time, I feel like there should be a bit more crossover because me, as a Dynamite and Rampage fan, you know, I try to follow what's going on Dark and Elevation best I can, although I don't really have time to watch it. Mm-hmm. But if I saw some of the stories that were playing out on Dark or Elevation through recaps, whatever, on Dynamite and Rampage, I might be more inclined to watch.
I agree with that. 100%. My thing is, I just think that if you're going to tell a story on one show, regardless of what the show is, you should probably blow it off there because people are going to be loyal maybe to that show. I agree with the idea, the general idea that if cable TV is sort of a reward for good work, a showcase saying, hey, you deserve to be on cable TV for all the good work you're putting on in the YouTube show, then absolutely. But for some stories, like, hey, man, you know, that's kind of what I want from Dark and Elevation is like, tell some stories there and blow them off there.
Oh, yeah.
So that
totally.
if I just want to watch that, I can just watch that.
Totally. But I think some of the more prominent ones, they could be enhanced by being on cable television, obviously.
I think they should absolutely let us know what's going on in Dark and Elevation, but they don't.
No, not really.
Not generally. They have the little ticker that goes
Yeah,
by.
they have the results. Yeah.
They have the results, yeah.
And that's the extent of it.
Yeah, after that we had the TBS Championship Finals. Jade Cargill versus Ruby Soho. Jade came out in some Storm gear. Oh, man.
Amazing.
It was awesome.
Amazing.
It was great. For a second when Ruby came out, I thought she was coming out in like some Green Lantern gear because she had Volt.
I know.
And the O in Soho. I was like, No, it's just a coincidence.
Yeah,
thought they were doing some cross universe promotion, amalgam action.
Yeah,
Amalgam Comics,
Amalgam Universe. Yeah.
When I was a kid, I was like, "What's amalgam?"
Yeah, I thought the same thing. I didn't know.
I didn't know what the hell amalgam was.
I didn't know either.
Is there a worse name? I know we've got a friendo out there in the community, Owen Likes Comics, who does YouTube videos on comics, which are really good. Mm-hmm. Is there a worse name? I want Owen to tell me, is there a worse name in the history of comic books than for such a massive event?
I know.
Amalgam. That's so bad. All the cool names you could have come up with.
I know. So the story of this match pretty much was Ruby trying to work over Jade's leg and Jade going after Ruby's bumped shoulder. She had it all taped up, basically a target all over it. And that's what she did for the better part of a match. And, every once in a while, Ruby would try to work the leg. She did hit a Saito suplex at one point. That gets her a 2. And then Mark Sterling gets on the apron, starts arguing with Aubrey Edwards. Aubrey just tosses him. Mm-hmm. Actually, prior to that, Ruby hits like an arm drag off the top and it's really selling her shoulder. Mercedes Martinez runs down to ringside. And then Thunder Rosa runs down and they brawl to the back. That happened like in the first third of the match. Anyways, getting back towards the end. So Jade looks for Jaded. Ruby counters it with a roll-up, gets a 2. She hits no future. Jade just barely kicks out. Barely.
Yes. Yeah.
Barely. So then Ruby puts Jade on the top rope. Jade hits a couple punches. Ruby's again looking for the top rope arm drag. Jade blocks it, hits Jade off the second rope for the win.
It looks like they were going to try to attempt a top rope one. I think that was the original plan.
Yeah. I
was very glad they didn't. You just want to, whatever you do, you want to make sure you nail it. If it has to be a little bit less spectacular, fine. Make sure you get the fundamental down. And that was a pretty, that's already an awkward spot from the second rope, but I'm glad they hit it. Ruby was the perfect finals wrestler for Jade Cargill. And again, they've got a lot of really, really solid veteran wrestlers there in AEW. That's who you want for your opponents with Jade here. After that, speaking of veterans, we had a sit-down interview with Serena Deeb and JR. I want to know about this rivalry, you and Sheeta. What's up with that? And she says, Sheeta got some fluke wins. She says, but I'm a 17-year vet. This is all about me claiming the top spot. JR says, it seems like there's something. I can't figure out what it is. There's something that gets under your skin about Sheeta. What is it? Team says, JR, is there anybody else on my level in that women's division? Oh, man, I don't know. Hard to say. She says, there's a reason they call me the professor. She takes what she wants. She demands a rematch.
Professor, because she's got a PhD in this business.
Yeah, that's right. I was just thinking about the kid from An 1 who dresses up like Spider-Man now.
Oh, yeah.
Remember
we went to E3 that one year and he was there?
No.
Yeah, they were promoting some like.
Oh yes, I do remember that.
It was some street ball game, and they had a little court set up in their booth.
And the controller was like the ball, wasn't it?
Something maybe I don't remember that.
It was something weird like that.
I was like, oh wow, cool professors here. That's awesome.
Yeah, that was cool. I remember Suge Knight being there. That was terrifying. I was like, good thing I don't hold any popular music rights. He might hold me out of a hotel window. Anyways, she says she takes what she wants, and she went into TK's office, demanded a rematch on Dynamite with Hikaru Shida. She says, I'm going to take 17 years of frustration out on her ass, so she's so bad she's not going to be walking out on her own. Wow. Well, that was pretty violent there.
After that, we had Malachi Black versus Brian Pillman Jr. Looks like Brian Pillman Jr. got a fresh haircut. His mullet looking really sharp there. Julia Hart had an eye patch on. What are you laughing at that for?
I noticed it, but I didn't process it.
Yeah. It was cleaned up. It was really cleaned up on the sides.
It was really short. I was looking more at his green gear. I don't know. Something was off about it. I was like, what is with that gear? It looks very generic. I don't know what the deal is.
Maybe you like subliminally you were like, oh, he's got a fresh mullet going there.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah,
just something about the whole package felt a little off, but you really weren't aware that it was the haircut.
It was the main.
Yeah,
it was the main.
Yeah,
Julia, lack of depth perception there with the eye patch.
Yeah,
yeah.
So this was a pretty fun match. Down towards the end, Malachi hits Pillman with a head kick. He's lifting him up for a black mass. Instead, Pillman holds on to the leg, hits a forearm. starting a bit of a comeback. Actually hits a jackhammer to get a 2. And then I looked away for a second. And I looked back, and then Pillman just falls to the mat. So did he just like slip off the top rope, or did he go for a splash or a drop kick and just completely miss?
Oh, was this for the finish here?
Yeah.
I think he worked a botch. I think he went for a springboard of some sort.
Gotcha.
But he fell. And
then
it was
Malachi hit him with the
really
black mass, yeah.
coincidental that he got hit with the black mass right after that.
Yeah.
I was actually kind of bothered that, like, when Malachi does the lift up the chin thing, I was really bothered they let Pillman, of all people, like, I think it should be a bigger opponent that counters the lifting of the chin thing. Because Pillman grabbed the foot, which seems like an obvious counter, but nobody has been able to figure that out, really.
Even back to the NXT days, I've never been that into the lifting from the chin thing, because it seems like such an easy thing. Such an easy thing to counter.
Doesn't make a lick
You just hold on to the foot. I know. It doesn't make any sense.
The guy's so, the idea is you're so fucked up, you can't do anything about it. You're resigned to defeat.
I get that. But at the same time, though, it doesn't make any sense. I like it much better. We just hit some black mass out of nowhere.
You just want people to start shooting all over the place. Like, it doesn't make any sense. Grab... power bomb. I'm just going to dead weight you. I'm not going to do a crunch up so you can throw me down. Although it looks like what's his face? Luthez used to do that shit for years.
So anyway, Malachi hits the black mass for the win. He leaves the ring, stops, turns back. At this point, Julia Hart's in there tending to Pillman. Lucha Brothers come out. Lights come down. We're all thinking Brody King's showing up tonight.
The crowd started chanting that.
I know.
Too.
They come back up. And Lucha Brothers and Malachi have switched places. Malachi is now on the ramp, and Lucha Brothers are in the ring.
So this is what he tweeted 3 days ago.
All right.
The color will reveal the hidden. Wednesday 2 with a third to come. We didn't get Brody. And so in this image here, the color is the eye, the redness right here.
Well, I think Julia is the second person to wear an eye patch.
She is. And I think that she is. I was surprised there was not more of a reveal. I thought she was going to, after the match, she was going to turn on Pillman and, spit on him or something like that. Missed him.
She was acting much differently tonight.
She was acting very strange. Yeah, she was. So maybe that's the second, and then, Brody's going to show up whenever.
Yeah, so it's going to be Pac, it's going to be Julia, and it's going to be Brody.
I think so, yeah. They're going to start factioning up some more people, man. They got too many people on the bus. Anyways, after that, we had a Ruby Soho interview with Tony Schiavone. But almost immediately, Britt interrupts, says, this is the second time he couldn't get it done. And Ruby says, that's big talk for someone who needs help to win. And in fact, you've never beat Riho with help or without help. So why don't you go prepare for your match? And then Britt attacks. And then Riho comes in and makes a save.
After that, we had a Aaron Solo QT Marshall promo, and QT's taking all the credit for training Hook. Says he shows up late, eats some chips, stretches people, leaves early. But there's one person who's never stretched, and that's Aaron Solo. And Aaron Solo just says, stretch me if you can, survive if I let you.
Yeah. After that, we had our main event, Jurassic Express versus Lucha Bros. This was a really just fun match. It was pretty long. Gave it plenty of time, doing all sorts of crazy shit, springboards and bouncing off stuff and cool stuff.
That destroyer Jungle Boy did off of Luchasaurus's shoulders was insane.
Oh my god, yeah, that was nuts. And then yeah, so we got the finish. We mentioned already the unfortunate spot where Fenix got choke slammed through the table, and then I don't know if they had to change up that finish at all. If it was supposed to include Fenix and Luchasaurus there, I'm not sure. But it seemed a tad underwhelming. It was basically like kind of a roll up, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah. Penta was going for Made in Japan, and Jungle Boy rolls him up to get the win. Yeah. And then they got the titles, and then everybody just starts filing out and staring at them. But it was kind of I feel like most of the people are just sort of concerned with what just happened to Rey Fenix, because Penta immediately jumped down there, and then everybody just seemed kind of somber. I know they were probably selling, we're coming after the titles. I'm not sure how they were supposed to act. Yeah,
but I don't know. The whole thing just seemed like, especially after that last replay, because I did an additional replay of the spot, and you totally see what happens.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, that's a bummer. So it was kind of an awkward petering out of the episode.
Yeah. And I think the stuff at the end with all the tag teams coming out, we're like, hey, look at our tag division, how loaded it is, and also we're all coming for the titles now, you know?
Yeah. Let's go ahead and answer some questions here. I got a couple questions here on the Patreon. If I can, there we go. Let's see here. Soken Russ asked, do you see William Regal going to AEW and becoming the manager of the Undisputed Era? I would love that. I don't know what Regal wants to do at this point. I mean, he's old, but he's not that old. And I think that he probably feels he still has a lot to offer. Mm-hmm. And I think anybody would be foolish not to offer him a position wherever in pro wrestling. I would love to see him manage the group that would always give him fits. There's plenty of history there, or even, like you had mentioned also, Bryan Danielson. There's history there as well. Mm-hmm. So I think it'd be terrific.
Oh, one thing sorry, go ahead, finish.
I was my last thought was maybe Cole really does run roughshod with both of his groups as one big super group. Tony brings him in because he's the only guy who knows he can control.
Yeah. One thing we failed to mention at the end, so we had the shots of all the tag teams on the stage, but they also cut up to Jericho sitting in the stands a couple times. Malachi was up there too.
Yeah.
So just setting up, I guess, the tag division, I guess.
It was a cool, it was a cool, unusual, it was a unique way to finish the show with, oh my God, these guys, everybody loves them. They got the fun theme and they got everybody on them now. Mm-hmm. It made the titles feel big. I thought it was good. Thought it was really good.
Yeah. Nick Kyle says, morning friendos, just scrolling through Twitter and seeing releases. Who got released? It's largely personnel in NXT. Regal, Thatcher, Danny Burch, among others.
Good question. Blake Whitehouse says, if Malachi Black is the Undertaker of AEW, who should be the Kane of AEW? Bray.
Abaddon.
Too. That's good.
Organ Grinder. So Thunder Rosa as Wolverine, Jade as Storm. How would you envision other AEW women's wrestlers as X-Men?
Ruby as Jean Grey, because she's got orange hair. Mm-hmm. That's how they made red hair in the comics, was just make it orange.
Mm-hmm. Who would be Cyclops?
Malachi Black.
Was supposed to be in the women's division.
He's only got one eye. Oh. Julia Hart.
Yeah, I knew that was coming. Knew it.
I can't do better than that. Yellow Flash. Should AEW create a women's tag team championship to boost their women's roster? Sure, why not?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. Dang MQ says remaining PC coaches are Matt Bloom, Sarah Amato, Kenny Dykstra, Fit Finley, Norman Smiley, Robbie Brookside, and Terry Taylor.
That's still a hell of a lineup right there. And then Terry Taylor. Xavier Gray says, do you think that Cody Rhodes is going to hold the TNT Championship belt hostage like Brock did with the Universal Championship back in 2017, or is he going to drop the belt to someone else?
Well, he'll drop it eventually.
He's going to drop it eventually. I don't think he's going to have it like that. No, I think he's going to tell his story. Mm-hmm. I think he's going to tell whatever story he's got cooking up, where he goes bad guy. Mm-hmm. Great question. Steve Klain. If you were to go heel, how would you change up your look? I'd wear flashier clothes. I went to go return. I got my mother-in-law got me like a Nike hoodie from Macy's for Christmas.
Yeah.
And I was like, it sort of fit weird. So I was like, she gave me the gift receipt. I was like, hey, I told her, I was like, hey, I'm going to take this back, get something else. She's like, okay, cool, go ahead. So I took it back. I found a leather jacket, a cool one. Like it has like the little puffy like thing. It looks neat. It was like originally $300. It was marked down 65%. So I only ended up paying, and I had the $50 credit. I only ended up paying $50 for it.
Nice.
I was very happy with it. But while I was waiting in line, I look over and they have all sorts of like sort of Seth Rollins type suits and stuff. And I was like, man, if I ever become like a pro wrestling manager, Like if we ever walk Simon Miller to the ring, we get something like that.
That's a good idea.
Very loud.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I guess what's the typical thing? You turn into a bad guy. You grow a goatee.
Well, that's Star Trek. That's the mirror universe you're thinking of.
That's what I do.
Yeah. Okay. This is mirror universe.
Yeah,
well, you have a full beard. So you would just turn into a goatee.
This is like my defining characteristic is my facial hair, and if I have less of it, people are like, "Oh wow, he's turning heel."
Bald and a mustache, please. Can we do that?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good.
Sure.
Good. Yeah.
Yeah. Stevens J says, not sure if this was mentioned, but this was AEW's first ever DQ finish. There was a DQ in the Pac versus Kenny match, but that was only for a fall. Kind of wild.
I know. That's awesome. That's awesome. Let's see here. Here we go. George Calloway says, we have champions for the TNT channel and the TBS channel. Which AEW wrestler would you book to be the champion of the Going In Raw channel, the Wrestle Juice channel, and the Enforcers Hockey Jersey channel?
Wow, great question.
Yeah.
Is it any wrestler, or does it have to be an AEW?
AEW.
Well, Bret Hart held the title briefly at Double or Nothing, so or at whatever show it was, and so he would be the wrestler for Enforcers Hockey Jersey channel.
That's good. That's good. That's good. What about here at AEW? I'm sorry, at Going In Raw.
Well, who's the most Going In Raw wrestler in AEW?
Oh, it's somebody in Team Taz. We'd get the drop on Hook. We'd be like, oh, we call dibs on Hook.
There we go. Very good.
Yeah, or Taz.
Yeah, Taz is.
Make it Taz. Let's make it, Taz probably makes more sense.
Yeah,
for
Taz
us.
does make more sense. Wrestle Juice
over at Wrestle Juice. AEW wrestler. It would be probably the first prominent member of Cody Island. It'd be QT Marshall.
Good.
I've got like one viewer over there who's obsessed with QT Marshall. Rotten something or other is his name. Yeah, he always asks me QT Marshall questions.
Interesting. Flat says, who's someone in 2022 in AEW you want to see more of? For Flats, it's Hobbs and Deeb.
Hobbs is absolutely definitely
high on
Hobbs.
my list too. Hobbs needs to be pushed. Push Hobbs.
Hobbs and you know what? Nah, I don't know. We've seen enough. Hobbs. I mean, can we say who we want to see less of? Dan Lambert.
Yes.
I want to see less of him.
I want to see more of Scorpio Sky, but doing his own thing.
Yeah, agreed.
Less Dan Lambert.
Right.
More Ethan Page, again, doing his own thing.
Less Dan Lambert. Right. You guys see a pattern here. Let's see here.
White Brownie asks, who should be Jade's first feud as champion?
Somehow. See, this is what I like about Jade. I feel like Jade can be a bad guy or a good guy. So I would say Jamie Hayter.
Yeah, that's good.
Real terrific wrestler. I think they would have styles that probably make sense together.
That'd be a hard-hitting physical match.
Right, exactly. Let's see here. Not now, Mike. Is AEW in danger of repeating WWE's mistake of having too much talent and not enough TV time? Yes. They're getting to that point.
They are.
They're getting to that point. We're sort of rounding that bend where we used to say, no, they're great. Well, they just sign a lot of people. So, yeah, we're at that point, people.
Floppy asked, realistically, who in Team Taz wins the AEW title first?
Ricky Starks.
All right.
Shane Kenevan, where do you think this Adam Cole stands at? Where do you think Adam Cole stands at the end of this tug of war story with Undisputed Era, Young Bucks, or something else? By the end of it all, by himself. I think they're going to give us plenty of Undisputed Era. I think they're going to give us plenty of him with the Young Bucks. But I think at the end of the day, he's going to burn all of his bridges.
And just be Adam Cole.
Adam Cole, man alone.
Yep.
Man alone.
Yep.
Yeah. Anyways, that's going to do it for us. Twitch chat, stick around. We'll answer some more of your questions. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Tomorrow at noon, Pacific, 3 Eastern, we're going to be doing a watch-along of NXT UK. So swing on by for that.
Yes, please.
And, right here at the Twitch. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We appreciate it. Till next time, we'll talk to you later.
Goodbye.